Hi, this is Tony Diaz, a Librotraficante, author of The Tip of the Pyramid, Cultivating Community Cultural Capital. Thank you for joining us for a multi-platform broadcast of Nuestra Palabra, Latino Writers Having Their Say, where we talk about art and culture from so many angles, and we try and make Houston the center of the universe, but we also throw a lot of love to our sister city, San Antonio, where we work with the Latino bookstore, and we are very Texas centric, but at the same time, very universal. Today, we're going to be talking with two artists that have a really cool project that we know you're really going to be intrigued by. It's a reimagining of Texas. We'll be talking to Wood Fancher Anthony and Robin Baker. They're actually on screen with us, so I hate to be rude. I'm going to say hi to them. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
And we'll be talking about your project with Love Texas. And of course, I want to remind folks that we thank you for experiencing our multi-platform broadcast. Perhaps you've watched the first edition of it on social media, beginning on the Facebook page of Nuestra Palabra, Latino Writers Having Their Say. Or maybe you're enjoying the video on fox26houston.com. Or maybe you're experiencing the audio on 90.1 FM KPFT, Houston's community station, broadcasting across the fourth largest city in America at 100,000 watts. Of course, we're really partial to KPFT because they were one of our first platforms. And we want to remind you that KPFT is a listener-funded radio station. So we hope that you can budget a donation to the radio station in the name of Nuestra Palabra, Latino Writers Having Their Say, so we can pitch in to keep this wonderful experiment going. And you can either go to kpft.org and click through to donate to the station and mention that it's the Support Nuestra Palabra, or you can call 713-526-5738 and make your donation that way. Please do tell your friends about it. And if you happen to miss the broadcast on any of those platforms, we also edit the audio for our podcast, and those are available on all the podcast platforms as well. So we hope that you will take that opportunity to share this via text, tweet it, email to your friends, relatives, and community centers so that we can spread the appreciation for art and culture. Today's show is about reimagining Texas through visual art, but more than that. And I think that's something that Nuestra Palabra has been trying to do. Perhaps people think we're just trying to do it for the Latino community. At the end of the day, folks outside of Texas profile all of us. I don't know if we'll mention some of the stereotypes they may have about us. I don't think we have to. But what I love is that With Love is a Texas collaborative series of 36 paintings that explores the duality of Texas by exploring and presenting Texas's most difficult and controversial modern day issues from a factual and historical perspective. The goal of this body of work are to explore and bring awareness and education to very real and serious issues affecting all Texans today, while simultaneously providing historical and educational information about Texas. The series seeks to spark conversations that lead to positive change. The playful and bold, which is what we love about this nature of these paintings, is memorable and approachable, two qualities the series seeks to impart on difficult topics presented. And once you hear some of these topics, you're going to be like, how are you going to do all that? We're gonna meet the two artists behind this, and we're going to show you some of the images clearly for our radio listeners. I will use my writing abilities to describe the images, but I think you'll be able to understand the underpinnings of trying to take art and break down the way we're perceived and come up with a new way to look at us. So let's say hi to our friends. First, we'll say hi to Wood, Fancher Anthony. Hey, how's it going?
It's going great.
Fantastic. Thanks for reaching out for us. You came to one of our events, supported us.
I did. I came to it was an Nuestra Palabra event, and you were having Alma there as well.
Exactly. So just out of curiosity, what brought you to that event? And tell us about your visual arts background.
What brought me to that event? I'm affiliated with Alma. I've participated in their events and meetings. I was a part of the show that they had last spring at the Post here in Houston. So that was exciting, and somebody had asked me to come to the event a couple months ago at the writers event you had.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I met you.
Which is fantastic because I think, again, the visual arts world and the literary arts world, sometimes we are just running parallel. And it's nice that, and I'm really proud to be a board member of Alma as well as the director of Nuestra Palabra, but it's a nice way to intersect those fields, bring them together. And if that doesn't happen, we're not vibing. And you know what I do love about the work that you're doing, you've taken a lot of time to explain some of the parameters of what you're doing in a really concise and precise way, which again talks to the collaboration between writers and ways we can work together. So appreciate you being involved and keeping that intersection going. So thank you so much for that. And also, Robin Baker, how long have you both been working together?
I think our first collaboration was in 2015. And we just did like one or two a year until we decided, these are really cool. We're going to have a show. And then we've had a second show, and now we're working on this one here.
That's fantastic. So it kind of evolved organically.
Right.
It did.
Which is very cool. At which point in the process, and again, I promised people we're going to look at the images and dive right in, but I've distracted myself because it's so interesting. At which point in the process did you say, you know what, this is something we can do long term?
Oh,
tough questions. Kind of hard hitting show.
I actually. I have an answer.
I think we kind of gelled better during the pandemic, and
Yes.
there was a total shutdown, and we had nobody in our studios for a year. We had separate studios, and we combined to save on the rent and stuff. And we just by osmosis, we just said, we're going to do this. It's really good stuff we're doing, which I never thought would happen. I didn't think my style and his would blend, but they kind of work. So we decided to do the Texas show, and we've gone from there.
That's very cool and very real, right? I mean, the only reason we're on a multi-platform broadcast is because during the pandemic, the main platform that we're on, 90.1 FM KPFT, Houston's community station, wasn't having people in the studio, and we had to adapt. So here we are. So on that note, as promised, you said you were kind enough to let me pick, and I picked two images that struck me. I'm going to try and describe them, and you can break down some of the topics that we're tackling. This one has an image of the Virgen de Guadalupe in the middle, and you've got cowboys. Let's see, three more rendered cowboys on one side, three more rendered cowboys on the other, in a seemingly tug of war pulling away. And in the background, each of them has a sort of a dimly drawn cowboy behind them, and they're on this mound, and it seems like a field. What really attracted me to this was the orange background playing off of the Virgen de Guadalupe's typical halo. And again, you're playing with a lot of images because that is the traditional image of La Virgen de Guadalupe, but you've also altered it, and it goes really cool with the background. And then you've also got the cowboys who are less rendered, hiding somehow in the shadows and in the orange, which speaks volumes. And then you've got the more detailed cowboys who still have certain traditional rancher aspects, but also not. And then here they are tugging at each other. And then there's cool red and orange flowers all over the ground. I'm going to stop. That's my explanation. Please add a little more of the details, because I'm a writer, not a visual artist. Add a few more to color in for our listeners, and then break us down on the topic and what you're up to.
You want to explain the cowboys?
No.
This is one of the few images where we actually use traditional, what you would expect out of Western art or the Texas genre of art. So there are cowboys here, and they are playing a tug of war with La Virgen de Guadalupe right in the center. And like I said, every element in these paintings are related to Texas. So what's more Texas than cowboys? with La Virgen de Guadalupe, obviously she's been a part of Texas for 500 years now. This used to be Mexico, and despite the separation there, we've got a lot of Mexicans and Latin Americans communities all over the state that still venerate her. And she's the ultimate symbol of motherhood. She's symbolic of feminism. She's symbolic of social justice. She's all these things. And when you have her dead set in the center of a painting with two groups of cowboys playing tug of war, we're basically speaking to the abortion rights issue that's happening in the state right now. It's men playing tug of war with women's reproductive rights. At the very bottom of the painting is the statue of Goddess Liberty. Goddess Liberty is the statue that sits at the very top of the Texas State Capitol building. And then on the other side of the painting, there's a statue of Lady Justice. Okay, and it's a Texas statue. It's based off of a statue in B County, Texas. And the reason we chose that statue is because it's one of the most unique versions of Lady Justice we've ever come across. First of all, she's not wearing a blindfold, and she's not holding the scales of justice. She's holding the book of law and a torch. So she's a little bit different, but she's 100% Texas. She's a Texas statue, just as is Liberty there. So what we've got is a bunch of cowboys trampling over liberty and justice. And that's the strong visual. And then you've got spectators way off in the distance. Those are the light gray cowboys in the background there.
And let's go over some of your guidelines. So you come up with a few rules for your works. And some of them that really intrigue me are, one, everything in the image, like you alluded to, has to be Texas in origins. Check. You also mentioned that you did not want to make these works political cartoons. And this is not. For example, it's not that easy to read. It's not that obvious. It's not a cliche response. And you have to really think about it before you derive a message. And it seems like you want people to not be giving a message, but to kind of derive, their own ideas based on some clues or hints. Tell us a few of the other guidelines that you impose for these works so that you can truly create a new vision of Texas in the viewers' minds.
Okay. Every animal must be native to the state of Texas or very closely related, so it becomes part of the state itself. Same thing with plants. All of our plants we use in these are all native to Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
the locations are all in Texas.
We use symbolism quite a bit throughout this series. So let's say the one we just finished discussing. You mentioned that there were red and orange flowers all over the place. Those red and orange flowers are purslane. Purslane is native to Texas. Purslane is also an aborficient or a memnagogue, which means it has and can be used to stimulate uterine contractions. It can be used to induce an abortion. So that's one way we're using plants. We were using all the animals symbolically. There's one painting where we use Jackie O. And she's not a native Texan, but we painted an image of her when she was in Texas. In fact, the anniversary of that happened a few days ago when she was in Dallas for the JFK assassination. So we're staying out of political cartoon territory. Every plant and every animal every building, every object, everything is Texas or is from Texas. There are a few exceptions, and we'll get to that in the next painting, where there's a train there. You've seen that one.
So by the way, really great explanation. Appreciate that. Let's go to the next one. We have a question too from folks online. I'm going to have our producer Roxana bring up the next image. Maybe one of you would like to describe it. I don't want to steal your thunder. And as we look at the piece, we can mention the topic, and then Terrence wants to know, I'm curious to know, how did you decide on your topics? Can you walk us through the process for each of you? Wood, could you start by sharing how you determine what to paint? And then Robin, how do you decide how to finish the piece?
Okay.
And let's start by describing, I'll let you describe this one.
All right. You want me to describe the painting, or?
Yeah, for our radio listeners, so the folks viewing online, they can see it.
Okay.
But I don't want our radio listeners to feel too left out.
Okay. The backdrop is the Milky Way, out in West Texas. And what you have is La Virgen de Guadalupe in black and white, Robin's signature style, towering above the El Capitan of Guadalupe Mountain, the El Capitan Peak, in the midground. And you've got a pregnant teen towering above this scene. And at her feet are golden jackrabbits, a golden donkey, and a golden scorpion.
It's a powerful contrast too between the colors of the animals and the rest of the pieces as well. Yeah.
Well, I do the color part, and those colors just worked for me. So.
And let's go right into Terrence's question. Tell us, you mentioned the topic has to do with birthrights, and here, how did you come up with the topic?
Okay, how we came up with the topics. I guess we've been in Texas our entire lives. We know what's wrong with it, and you just feel things, and we wanted to be honest. So we came up with what's going on in Texas. And as we started doing more research, we started realizing Texas leads the nation in the worst ways in so many topics. And we wanted to paint about that, but we didn't want everything to be, ugly or gory or visually offensive. This painting in particular deals with teen pregnancy. We've got one of the highest teen pregnancy rates in the nation. We lead the nation in teens getting pregnant multiple times. We have the lowest percentage of mothers receiving early prenatal care in the nation. If Texas were its own country, it would have the highest maternal mortality rate in the developed world. And that's 100% Texas right there. And what's going on here is Robin painted La Virgen de Guadalupe because she is the patron saint of the unborn. And she was towering over her namesake mountain, the Guadalupe Mountains in West Texas. And then there's a pregnant teen standing in the foreground, which is the topic of this painting. The rabbits at her feet are jackrabbits. They symbolize fertility. Jackrabbits multiply very quickly, and they're native to Texas, so we put them in this painting to signify or to be symbolic of fertility. The donkey is not the donkey we included because it's symbolic of ignorance. And the reason we had to put that in there is because one of the most cited reasons among teens for teen pregnancy or for getting pregnant is lack of education around the topic. So, and we all know donkeys are symbolic of or associated with ignorance. So that's why the donkey is there. The scorpion, if you notice that the donkey's kind of bowing down to the scorpion, and the scorpion also native to Texas, the brown scorpion. It's a cave scorpion, actually. They live in caves and under rocks. That one, and they're symbolic of control, okay? And what we have here are local governments and ISDs across the state, which are also governments, controlling knowledge, banning knowledge. Sex education does not exist in the state of Texas at all. And
banning of books as well.
Banning of books. It's all interlinked here. So, so why West Texas? Well, it just kind of fit. We have the Guadalupe Mountains. We're painting La Virgen de Guadalupe. Statistically, teens tend to get pregnant at night. And this was a chance for us to highlight West Texas. West Texas has category 0 night skies, which are some of the darkest skies in the world. It's beautiful out there. So there's a little bit of that going on as well. We're wanting to teach about, aside from the subject matter, we're giving you real information here. You can look at La Virgen de Guadalupe and study, why is she significant to Texas? Texas. You can learn more and dive further into the Guadalupe Mountains, which are also in West Texas, or any of the animals and plants that we have painted in this. Anything else I'm missing?
No, that covers it.
That covers it.
If I can add a little more too, I'm fascinated by the sky because you've gone out of your way to explain how the flora is authentic to Texas and the animals, but even the sky, you picked out a chunk of the universe that is very Texas, there, and it shines through. I also think what's powerful about the imagery of La Virgen de Guadalupe is that, of course, some Chicanos are going to say, well, that's the image that was used by Spanish to co-opt the indigenous communities. But then later on, you're going to see the community band together under that image to get the Spaniards out of Spain as well. So to me, it's always a powerful image that, yes, people try and point it one way or the other, but I think it has a life of its own in some ways that the community embraces. And you allude to that too by, well, here were mountains named after her.
Exactly.
I
mean, she's much more than the protector of the unborn. She's a symbol of feminism and social justice as well. So she means a lot of things to a lot of people, especially the Latino or Mexican community all over Texas and beyond. From Texas, all over.
And of course, you and I are chatting a few weeks before December 12th, La Fiesta de la Virgen de Guadalupe. So, I mean, that's Italian. And if people don't think it's Italian, drive around the East End. You're going to see that she is still revered. You're going to see matechines. You're going to see all different sorts of ceremonies. I guess the last thing I'll say, because we have a whole show and there's more more paintings, but I'm really intrigued by this one. It's really thought-provoking. To me, it's just powerful to have the young woman and the Virgen staring at each other, but not. It kind of really brings the issues home. And you mentioned sex education. It's like, Texas, come on. I mean, on TikTok, our youth are being exposed to images that they need help sorting through. I wish schools had, the abilities to talk to them. They should be able and not have shame to talk about and get, condoms and contraceptives. If we're gonna say, hey, we're gonna shame people for being pregnant or prevent them from, other resources such as the abortions, etc. Well, then give them all the tools, which your Scorpion, I think, is very fitting for that. It's ridiculous to leave children abandoned without that sort of knowledge. But again, you do avoid the political cartoon, very nuanced, and I think people can draw a lot of their conclusions as well. I think we only answered one of Terrence's questions. How do you decide to finish the piece?
Okay. How did you just? Okay, we decided our topics by just kind of talking. Newspapers. We
experiences from the past, and then once we got our topics, our previous collaborations before this show is I'd paint something and toss the canvas to him and see what he came up with. This show, since we were planning 18 topics, we planned every inch of the painting before we even started painting. We traveled the state for over a year, going to museums, and places like the Cotton Gin Museum in Burton, Texas, and we went to major museums in other cities, and we went to the prison museum in Huntsville, and we just traveled as much as we could and gathered as much information as possible, and then took it from there. And then we sat down and started brainstorming over coffee every day.
Exactly. It was like we gathered a haystack of information, and once we had all that information, we started picking at the pieces and trying to fit them together into these paintings, and that's how that happened.
It's a cool way to live. It's a cool way to create art. That's a wonderful way to push your imaginations, to dialogue. Can you give us the topics? Give us the topics that you're focusing on.
The topics. Oh God.
Oh.
Wait. Okay, I've got it right here.
Okay.
But while I'm looking at that, just so everybody knows, explain who starts. And
I paint in acrylic paint, so I have to go first because oil can go over acrylic, but not vice versa. So I paint all the black and white images, which I do black and white. I've got this vision issue. I'm half blind and I see a lot of contrast and shadow and light. So that's why I paint in black and white. Once I get that, then he has to mask all that off and then for the backgrounds and the color and brings it all to life because he does bright, bold, and oil.
I get the bright, bold, and colorful from my Latin Mexican heritage. I do everything boldly and colorfully.
Eso, así.
Exactly. Así es.
Así.
I'm a white guy. I'm sorry.
You're good.
So the topics of the 18 major paintings are abject poverty, extreme poverty, all right? LGBTQIA plus subjugation, the control of knowledge. So basically the attack on CRT, if that makes sense.
Yep. Oh, it makes sense.
Book banning.
It's wrong, but it makes sense. Yeah.
Reproductive rights, gerrymandering, ERCOT, health insurance,
or lack thereof.
White Christian nationalism. We have the highest prison population in the country. We lead the nation in mass shootings. We have one of the highest teen pregnancy rates, extreme wealth. We also have the most lax gun laws or lack of gun laws in the nation. We also lead the nation in land, air, and water pollution. We also lead the nation in capital punishment, immigration, mega churches, and sports versus education expenditures. These are all very interesting.
That's like, I tell you what, you're trying to get banned. Like you're like DEI, CRT.
This is why one of the rules was we must be respectful of every topic, and one of the other rules was to also be what is that,
non-judgmental, non-biased.
Yes, even though we are.
You can't help it.
You can't help it, but
I would add that, right, you're careful not to so for example, some English teachers don't want students to write research papers on the abortion issue because it's all cliche. They're just going to run to the bandwagon, that they're from.
Uh-huh.
However, you're changing the images, and actually, I think, kind of taking away from some of the reflex issues.
And that's exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted to disarm people.
Mm-hmm.
And like the topic of gun control, we didn't want to paint a bunch of dead kids in a schoolyard.
Mm-hmm.
So we found symbolism to get that message across without bloody babies.
Exactly.
I tell you what, for folks just tuning in, of course, you're experiencing a multi-platform broadcast of Nuestra Palabra, Latino writers having their say. Every show, we're trying to redefine Texas. Today, we're joined by our friends Wood, Fancher, Anthony, and Robin Baker with their project With Love Texas, a really powerful, unapologetic visual love letter from Texas, a series of 18 paintings that explore the duality of Texas by examining and presenting modern day issues from a historical and factual perspective. And I think let's take a look at, I really enjoyed talking about the visual art itself. Later on, I'll hear from our listeners and they say, Tony, never explain a painting to me again. Or some may say, hey, the way you spoke about it intrigued us. But I'm very fascinated by the dialogue. And what I like is that this way privileges the dialogue, which some people may not have when they see the artwork. They may think about it, right? But they don't have us walking through it, and I'm really intrigued by it. So I'm going to ask Roxana to go ahead and bring up another work. And I will say this: you're both fun to play this game with, because you didn't say, "Hey, it's got to be these 3 images or 4 of the images." You're like, "Bring them, whatever you got. Try and stump us."
There you go.
So tell us about this work.
Well,
this one is on immigration. There's a steam engine in the background, which we actually rode on. We went to East Texas and took a tour, a 4-hour tour on that.
Oh, very cool.
I took the image and painted it. You'll see armadillos. They are not native to Texas, but they migrated from Mexico about 500-600 years ago.
No, 100. In the 1850s.
1850s. And then we've got a longhorn.
Back when they were armadillos, right?
Uh-huh.
We got a longhorn, which also is not native, but it was brought over by the Spaniards. I don't know when, but they become part of our culture. They are the state large mammal. The armadillo is the state small mammal.
Where would UT be without it?
Exactly. Right? Yeah. And then we have the monarch butterflies, which migrate from Mexico to Texas on their way to Canada, but they stop in Texas and they, reproduce and cocoon and all that stuff. So and then the train represents everybody, the people coming to the state. So everything in this has immigrated.
Exactly. So once again, we're being a little bit more playful with a very serious topic, something that people are dying for. How often do we hear about a truck being opened up and they find dead bodies, or there's dead bodies turning up in the desert, or what did Greg Abbott recently have, a wire thing in the middle of the river, and they found people down there? We don't want to reflect on that. With this painting, we wanted to present you with the Texas official state insect, the official large mammal, and the official small mammal. And these are all iconic state of Texas images, okay? But they're not native to Texas.
I love it.
So they're all immigrants. One brought by Spaniards, and the other 2 came from Mexico. So
they cross the Rio Grande. So yeah, they're important.
They're important. They're a part of Texas. So what we're saying here is that Texas wouldn't be Texas without immigrants, specifically these.
And even the train alludes to folks working the tough jobs. Even to me, just personally, my father He went from picking crops throughout Texas to working at the railroad. Of course, it was up north, but a lot of Mexicanos were paid to do that hard labor. He called it El Camino de Fierro,
Yep.
That steel road. But and again, the metaphor, engine of progress. But you're right. Even folks that, have certain issues about immigration, you can't deny that we need labor, we need work, and have to rethink. Well, I embrace these other symbols, but yes, they're immigrants too. I don't mean to interrupt you. I think you're about to say.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, you made an excellent point there. I think other states are finding out that they also need immigrants because their agricultural sectors are suffering from lack of workers, and that's an important point. That's a part of all this.
Tell me about the orange, because that's your hand. The orange is your hand.
Oh, the orange. You know what? I created that specific orange using 5 different colors.
Dang.
And I've been carrying it throughout the series for continuity. It's a very orange, yellow, vibrant color. It's the color I imagine Texas is.
Like, it's not a usual color for most paintings. You don't see that color in a lot of art.
And it does have that Mexicano undertone, like you were alluding to, especially with the monarchs. It almost rhymes with the color of the monarchs. And by the way, for our writers in the audience, Carmen Tafoya has the book The Last Monarch. Rigoberto Gonzalez has a book about the monarchs making their trips back and forth. So that, again, that's an iconic symbol of immigration. And if I may be abusing my role as interviewer here, but I also am intrigued by the fact that the train appears drawn one way, and these immigrant now turned Texan animals seem more realistic, and I think that fits too. Why? Because you may have an argument on your hands when you tell Texas Aggies, by the way, my son is a Longhorn, so everybody relax. That hey, that's not originally from Texas. They've got to maybe rethink a few things, or they're chill. You're also hitting on that common ground where people. I like what you're doing, because honestly, when sometimes if you're on corporate TV, the idea is for people to cause conflagration, to argue. Typically a dialogue, even if someone is Republican or thinks different about immigration, we wind up on this common ground where it's like, yes, we do need workers.
We need them. I mean, we need them for a lot more reasons. Unfortunately, the education system in this country is failing us. We need to import smart people. That's what's going to keep NASA going. That's what's going to keep the Texas Medical Center going. And I don't think that Texas is doing a good job at educating people enough for roles in those 2 places, for instance. So, yeah.
And I love what you're saying. The message is then, just like these armadillos become armadillos, so too will other folks come and contribute so much that they become a fabric of what Texas defines itself as. And, the knee-jerk reaction to the topic has to be filtered through this. This is fun. I think I'm going to get an A on the final.
This was one of my favorite paintings. And painting those armadillos, this was one of the final paintings. And I didn't have fun until I started painting these armadillos. This painting is just so opposite visually of what it is we're talking about, but it's so 100% spot on at the same time. And I think that's what I like about this one the most.
Fantastic. Well, let's do one more quickly, and then we'll wrap it up. And you got to tell us how to continue following your work. Roxana, if you got one more, as we cue away to us to chat a little bit. Well, tell folks how to stay in touch with you and how to follow up on your work. And
Okay. Well, you could follow us at robinwoodart.com, Instagram, Robinwood Art Studio, and Facebook, Robinwood Art Studio.
Fantastic. Well, close us out with this last image for us, although there's more in the project.
This last image. Once again, for continuity, we just painted a dark Texas sky. This guy happens to be in the Rio Grande Valley. What we have is an image of goddess Ceres, a Roman goddess Ceres. She was the goddess of fertility and agriculture. So that's why she's has this, I think it's called the scythe in her hand.
Yes.
And there's cows in the background, which are also symbolic of fertility. But this particular vignette was taken from an 1840s Republic of Texas $1 bill. So if you're wondering why we're painting a Roman goddess in this series, it's because, well, the Roman goddess came from Texas currency. The $1 bill was the lowest denomination. Texas did not mint its own coins. So if you see coins out there, they're fake. The $1 bill so it's the absolute lowest denomination, symbolic of poverty. She was also symbolic of poverty because in ancient Rome, she was venerated by the lower classes, the poor people. So it makes perfect sense why she's here. The grapefruit dominating the mid-ground there are symbolic of the Rio Grande Valley economy. You see Texas has the Rio Grande Valley, Starr County, and the bordering counties are the poorest counties in the United States. Not just Texas, but the United States. So we've got this level of abject poverty happening in Texas that is unreal. And the main economy there is citrus fruit. And one thing we didn't know was this, we knew about ruby reds. We just didn't know that ruby reds are actually native to Texas in a weird kind. But ruby reds is the main economy in that section or that part of Texas. And
it's a big part of the economy. It's a huge cash crop, yet everybody down there is in abject poverty.
Live in these colonias. Are these, they don't have running water, they don't have paved roads, they don't have electricity. These places are just horrendous. And this is how these people are living in Texas, which also happens to have one of the other paintings. We have the second amount of millionaires or billionaires in the country. So there's some duality there. We haven't been pointing out the duality throughout this project, but yeah, this painting deals with the abject poverty and how, it's directly affecting the population down there, which is mostly Latino, almost 100% Latino, Mexican. So this, by using the vignette from the Republic of Texas $1 bill, we're saying that they're poor. This is the economy, and we're doing it without actually painting people sleeping on benches or any of the other negative imagery you might associate with abject poverty. With this, someone could take it and start talking in depth about the citrus economy in Texas, or we could take it back and talk about the money that Texas used to print.
And who is benefiting from all that labor long term. Of course, I love the Valley, a lot of great people down there, but when you do go there, you're going to see vestiges of other, corporate raiders, be they railroads or mills, etc., that are now rusting. So someone made their millions and left.
Exactly. And we're not pointing any fingers here.
No, exactly. Right.
Series, we are just saying, hey, we have extreme poverty, and these are some imageries. Well, there's some imagery associated with it. It's up to you to go and find out why.
And you evoke some of that and make us think. Really great stuff. We've been chatting with Wood, Fancher, Anthony, and Robin Baker, talking about their project with Love, Texas. We hope that you will keep us posted on updates to the project or next version. So thank you both for taking the time to chat with us. Really, really fun to talk, and really cool stuff. Congratulations on reimagining Texas.
Yeah, we just wanted to get this on everybody's radar. It was 36 paintings. We have divided it up, which is something we didn't mention. 18 major paintings, and for every major painting, there's going to be a small 11 by 14 inch minor painting, and we've just got to get through those. And we are still looking for a place to host this. We would like this to premiere somewhere in Houston, hopefully in March. It might be too late for that, but we want this to tour Texas and didactic institutions across the state. We want people in Houston, Dallas, Austin, Fort Worth.
We want to spark conversation.
El Paso. We want this entire series to travel the state.
Well, it'd be fun if maybe NP and your crew team up, because this is a great way to dialogue and get writers and visual artists to combine. So,
and we also want to get a bunch of the writings that you've already seen turned into a book. What we ultimately want is that everything is factual. So we want somebody to be able to point their phone at any object within these paintings, and their phone be able to give them more scientific information about whatever species they're looking at, or historical information about any object they pointed their phone at, you know? So, I mean, this has the potential to be an educational tool about not only the biology and ecology and architecture and history about Texas, but it really is about all of the main topics we mentioned earlier.
I love it. I love it. Well, I can't wait to see what manifests. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Want to thank folks for tuning in. I want to thank our crew. Roxana Guzman is our multi-platform producer who helps us with all our shows. Rodrigo Bravo is our sound engineer. He makes us sound smooth on all the platforms.
He's been great.
I want to thank the entire team for all the work that they do. I want to thank KPFT 90.1 FM, Houston's community station. I'm Tony Diaz at Librotraficante, and we look forward to seeing you behind the book. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.